We are now on patch 13.18b, and here is all the strongest comps in this patch and how to play them. This time I have teamed up with Snuble, who is currently rank 1 on EU West as I'm recording, and he was obviously also the first one to hit Challenger on the server. We went over all the best comps, and here they are. In the S++, we have Double Trouble Rogue. So basically you want to have one of the augments for Double Trouble, and if you hit that one, you want to play all the rogues. You want to have Grave just to 2-star, but else you want to get the other 3 units to 3-star, itemize them, try to prioritize the glove items to give yourself more crits. And this new item, Night Harvester, is basically made for rogues. When you hit level 6, you want to play the units that you have the most of. That means if you're hitting most of these units, you want to put items on her and play 2 of her. And if your secondary is Echo, you want to play 2 Echoes with items on Echo. And then you have to make sure that you have 4 rogues in. Try to put Kaisa in the middle, since she is the one killing the tanks, and the other 2 units in the corner so they can go to the backline. And that is basically it. Super broken comp at the moment. Probably gonna get nerfed in some way when everyone figure out that you have to play rogue when you get Double Trouble. And if we should pick a legend, it's probably gonna be TF to make sure that we're getting all the glove items. So the first comp that we want to go over in the S tier is the one with Challengers. And this is the most played comp in Challenger at the moment, and also in Master Plus. So what we are looking for here is basically 4 Challengers with Fiora and Kaisa as the main carry. If you're playing Demacia, you will obviously get an 3rd item, which is a Radiant item that goes on Fiora. And if possible, at level 7, you will play this board without Heimerdinger. If you get augments like Gift of the Fallen, that is super good, since it often is your carries that are the last units that are standing. So they are getting the most out of it. Else something like Long Distance Pals is super good. If you put your units like this, they will get the buff. You can also choose to play Draven, but in most cases, you're probably not gonna play Draven. And that means something like Ornn or TF would be fine in this comp as well. TF is probably recommended for most players since you're having an easier time to get the items that you want. But one thing Snuble mentioned is that you should probably take out Demacia and go for more in Juggernaut instead. And that means you're taking out Jarvan. You put your items over, take Jarvan out, take Quinn out, add in something like Nasus, and add in something like Nautilus. So you're instead going for 4 Juggernauts and 4 Challengers. If you want to cap out your board, you would put something in like Sion, since Sion is probably gonna be your default 5-cost units in most of the comps, other than Heimerdinger, obviously. Super solid comp, the most played in Challenger at the moment. So the next one in the S tier comp is the one with 6 Bruisers, and here you are playing all of the Bruiser units, and you will try to get Cho'Gath to 3-star and Malzahar to 3-star. If you're ending up getting Rek'Sai and Necton and Vi to 3-star, you will do that as well. You will put tank items on Cho'Gath and AP mana items on Malzahar and similar on Silco. Are we getting these augments? We are going for them since they are buffing up the team super well. Are we ending up getting a crest? We will put it on one of the backline units, and then we will take out one of the units that we maybe didn't get to 3-star. Trade Sector is probably one of the best ones for this one, but whatever buff up the team is super good. When it comes to tank items on Cho'Gath, you will just go by the default ones. Normally you're probably gonna put in this one instead, but you can also play something like 2 Zorimas, since it is healing your units. And that is a % of healing, and since Cho'Gath have massive amount of health, he will heal way more. Yeah, other than that, AP items on the backline, other Bruiser tank items could go on Rek'Sai if you get him to 3-star. One of the best comps at the moment if you are hitting it. And one thing worth mentioning is normally when you're playing reroll comps for 1-cost units, you're sometimes going on a lose streak in the early of the game to get more gold so you can roll down. And sometimes players are rolling down just before hitting level 5 to get as many of the 1-cost units as possible. And what we went over is that you should probably not roll all the way down to 0. Are you very low on health? You could do it at some point, but you should probably never do it. And what you could do is to maximizing is only to roll down to 33 gold just before hitting level 5. And that is only to get your units to 2-star if you don't already have that. But else, if you do have all your units to 2-star, you could just roll down to 40 or 50 gold. And when you hit level 5, you go by default to roll down only to 50 gold. If you're contested by more than one, you should not play this comp, but you can play it if you're only contested by one player. So the next one in the S tier comp is 6 Gunners, or just the one with Piltover. And here you're obviously going to start out with having more Piltover units. That means you're hitting 3 Piltover units naturally in the early of the game. You go on a lose streak, as you did before, all the way down to 3-5. You want to end up having 20 to 35 stacks. And what's different this time is that you're doing the roll down at level 6. That means you're not going level 7 at 3-5. You're just doing the roll down at level 7. So you're still going to do your cash out at 3-6. But what you're looking for is Jinx to 3-star, which is your win condition. At that point, if you are level 6, you will have 6 units in, and that will be Jace, Jinx, Echo, Graves, Vi. And if you're hitting Sejuani or Affiliates, you will put those units in. But else you're just going to play another Bruiser units and put it here in the front line. So after the cash out, you will get the spike and you will start doing a win streak. And when you get to stage 4-1 or 4-2, you kind of want to have Jinx to 3-star. From there, you're just going to put in the units that you are missing and going up in levels, obviously. So if you're getting an Emblem, you're going to put it on Echo, and that means you can play for the 6 Gunners. If you're playing this comp and you get your chance to get one of these augments that healing you, you will always take that one. You probably shouldn't force it, but are you ending up getting this comp? Go for these augments. Items should go on Jinx first, and then else what you are hitting. You are obviously only gonna play one of the last whispers, which should go on your carry to make sure that she is hitting the right unit with the whisper. So these items can go out and put something else in. Are you ending up having a last whisper on one of the other units? It's okay as well, but then you probably wouldn't put it on Jinx. After doing the win streak and hitting Jinx to 3-star, you go up in levels, and when you want to cap out your board, you want to play Sion in, and you also want to take Vi out, especially if she is not 3-star. If she's 3-star, you're gonna keep her, but else you're gonna take her out and then put in Heimerdinger instead. Super good comp, but you kind of have to have Piltover early in the game. And if you can remember, this is the board that you are looking for at level 6, and else Affiliates. If you don't have the emblem, that will be even better. So one of these 2 units with this at level 6. Next in the S tier, we have Sorcerers, and this is the one that are performing the best of the Sorcerers comps. In fact, it's one of the best performing comps overall. And this is the comp that you're playing if you're getting an emblem, which will go on Shen, but else you're just gonna play all the Sorcerer units minus the 2 1-cost units. Your carry is gonna be Ahri as in last sets and Silco, and tank items will go on Taric and Shen as normally. We are playing Karma to get 3 Ionias, so we can get mana faster on Ahri, and else is just gonna be the default one. Before we're hitting this point, we are playing these 6 units, and then we will obviously only gonna hold Karma before we're hitting Ahri. We're never gonna play Karma before we hit Ahri, and Ahri is just gonna be something that we are looking for in the end game. So before that, we're gonna play one of the other 2 units. So we still have 6 in the trade, and they're just gonna hold the items until you're hitting Ahri, put the items over and get the units out. So you're only playing this version if you're getting the emblem. I will go over the other one without the emblem in a bit, but what I want to mention is Overcharge Mana Front is really good, but what's worth mentioning is that you are probably gonna play with On. And that is because many of the on items is very usable. And here is what I learned from rank 1. So Mana Sane is super broken. It's by far the best one. And that will go on Ahri or Silco. Super good on both of them. Are you hitting it? Just put it on Silco if you're not having Ahri already. Other super good one is Sniper on Ahri, as in last sets. She will hit the backline as well. Sonya on Ahri is super good as well. Makes sure that she is getting 1 more cast off. Hole Crusher on Shen, not on Taric, because he have to stand close to other units. So Hole Crusher on Shen, and then you're obviously gonna move out Shen to the side, so he is getting the buff. Maybe you're gonna put your units like this instead. And then we have Eternal Winter, which can go on Taric or Shen. You can even use Infinity Forge, and you can even use this Bruiser items to make sure that Yavin is getting off one of his casts. And you can also use Deathfire Grasp on one of your backline units. So I've just put in all the on items that you should look for. I haven't put in the 2 gold items since you're probably gonna stay away from them. So this is just where they could go. You're obviously not gonna play all of them, but just to see what is best. Mana Sane is by far the best one, but else in the order that I mentioned them before is what you should look for. So another option is that you are not getting the emblem, and that means you have to play 6 sorcerer in a different way. And the first one is that you're just adding in one of the 1-cost units. And what's different as well is that you are playing Kaisa, and that is to get 6 in wards and also still hitting the Bastion. What you're doing differently here is that you are basically just playing this board, but are you ending up getting the Demon Flare, you will go for a Swain 3-star and at the same time a Vel'Koz 3-star. And that means that you can easily put items on Vel'Koz as your carry. And you can also easily put tank items on Swain, since he will be super strong. A different option to Ornn is going for Gotta Go Fast, since it gives you more mana. Are you hitting the Demon Flare? You will go for this board without Ahri at level 7. And maybe even if you're not playing Jarvan as well, you can play for 6 in Sorcerers anyways. And that would look something like this. So next up in the S tier comp, we have Juggernaut and Strategist, Streamer, Sorcerer, Zone. This is the comp that you're looking for. So you're basically looking for the 4 Juggernaut units. And then you're having these 2 units in the backline as the carries. What you want to do is at level 7, you still want to play 4 Juggernauts, and you're probably not going to hit Aatrox, and that means you have to put in one of the other units. That could be Set, for example. So you're playing Set instead of Aatrox, and then you are taking out one of the strategist units, whatever you haven't hit. So let's say you're keeping a 2-star Swain, but you haven't hit Jarvan. So this is the board that you are looking for at level 7. You're going to put your attack speed items on Azir and your classic AP mana items on Silco. When you are having the Zorn online, you will put it on Silco. And the one that you are looking for is Bioware in the best case. But else, try to roll down for this board. And then when you go level 8, you will add in Jarvan. And when you hit Aatrox, you will put him in instead of Set. Going level 9, obviously put in Sion for even more frontline and CC. And else something like Heimerdinger is super good for the shred as well. Know your enemy. Gift of the Fallen is super good. You can always think that Gift of the Fallen is a good augment when it comes to a point where your carries is the one that dies in the end. So that means if you're having comps where you're having a backline who is standing as the last units, that is often something that Azir do. You can go for that kind of augments. Ornn is probably the legend that you go for, since there is a lot of the items that you can use. Tank Bruiser can go obviously on Nasus and Aatrox, and the other more damage-wise will obviously go on Silco or Azir. Super good comp, S tier for sure. So the last one to cover in the S tier is the Rogue comp. And here you are playing all of the rogues. And if you're getting an emblem, you will put it on Mordekaiser. But mainly try to get these 3 units to 3-star and put items on them. Similar to the Double Trouble, you will go for glove items. Katus and Echo's example is kind of bis items. You just want to think 1 healing and 1 crit and 1 other damage item. Again, Night Harvester is kind of made for rogues, but else you're just going to put whatever you have. Before getting to this point, you are probably going to play something like these units. And then you will have in Graves before you're getting Mordekaiser and the emblem. So you're still playing the 4 rogues. So play for this one. If you're getting the emblem, put in Mordekaiser and get Sion into the board. So you kind of just have to remember this one. 4 rogues, get them to 3-star and fill out your board. What you can look for to think that you want to play this one is that you're getting a lot of gloves and also hitting a lot of the units that you need. Who you want to itemize is kind of whatever you hit the first. So if you're hitting a lot of Qiyana, then you want to put more items on her. If you're hitting a lot of Echoes fast, you want to put items on him, and so on. So it basically just whoever is the strongest one, so you're not losing too much health before ending up in the end game. I'm probably not going to force this one, so there's not like a specific legend that you want to play. If you're low elo, you can obviously always try to force some of the comps, but if you want to do it anyway, something like Lee for getting more rolls is probably the best one. but else you are probably gonna play one of your defaults, one like Horn instead. And if you see your angle into playing this one, you can go for it. Now looking into the A tier comps, they are all super good and still very playable. The S tier is just a little bit better. But the first one we're gonna look at is Noxus, definitely playable. You're playing 7 in Noxus, and Mordekaiser is gonna be your main carry. And then you're having Samira and Swain and Darius, which also can kinda carry. Darius is not that good anymore, so you're just gonna put whatever leftover items on him. You can also choose to put the items on Aatrox if you have the chance to do that. So Mordekaiser, main carry, Samira, secondary, and Swain is kind of like the main tank. Before you're getting 7 in the trade, you are going for 5, and that means you're probably gonna take out something like Cyan because you haven't hit it yet. And then you can also take out whatever weakest unit you have. That could be Cassiopeia, who haven't hit 3-star, or it could be Katarina. Items that are good on Samira is basically whatever keeps her alive the whole fight, but also something like blue buff to get off cast all the time. Mordekaiser wants attack speed and at least one of the rapid fire cannons to give him range. And else you could also use something like one of the new items that give attack speed whenever you cast. What else worth mentioning is that you could go for TF as legend, since it makes sure that you are getting the items that you want, especially the attack speed and range for Mordekaiser. You could also go for trade sector to hit all the 3-stars. What I think is most important is that you are getting Swain and Samira, but else you can just go for this comp without hitting the 3-star. It's just a guarantee to make sure that you're getting in the end of the game. Total domination also always good when you're playing Noxus. But else things worth mentioning is a Spatch is really good, and you want the Spatch to make an emblem for Noxus that can go on Aatrox. And what you also could do is take out Katarina and then play Fari instead. And you can also put the emblem on him, and you can even go for something like this and even get him to 3-star. That's also an option. But else you could also just play, if you're playing Kata, and you're, for example, getting an rogue emblem, you could put it on Mordekaiser as well. That's also an option, but this is probably more a realistic option where you don't have 3 in rapid fire cannon. It's probably not even the best items to get 3 of them, but Giant Slayer is also super good. Nasus Tooth is also super good. One of these 3 items is definitely super strong on Mordekaiser. You need tank items on Swain and unique items similar to this on Samira. That is like the main thing. And then also the 7 in Noxus. Are you ending up having 2 emblems? You would go on one on both of these units and go for level 9 and then have 9 in the trait. That is like a guarantee win. You could also just play something like this instead and then adding in Jarvan when you are hitting level 9. Also super, super good, especially if you're having these units to 3-star. Let's say you're not getting the emblem, your end board would probably look like something like this instead with the Kata. Super good comp as well. A tier, it's a bit niche in some ways, but definitely up there. So next up we have Ionia Variations, and we have 2 of the new units. That's gonna be the carries. And as third, we have Shen in the front line. And here you basically just want to play all the 4 of these units and then having 6 in the trade. So you're just gonna play around these units. If you're not having the emblem, you're playing 6 in the trade. If you're getting the emblem, you can take out something like Karma and then put in something like a Taric instead. So you are getting the Bastion trait as well. But else, this is the board that you're looking for without the emblem. And this is probably what you are getting in the end. But there is a way that you can cap it even more. There is a better option, but this is something that you could end up with, and it's still solid. But what you're looking for is an emblem. You could also look for the specific augments for Vanquisher, and you could also go for the specific one for Ionia, but all good and solid. And look for this comp if you want to cap it out, and look for this comp if you can't cap it out more. So basically here we just had Nida here before, and we put her items basically just over to Aatrox, especially if you have the emblem. And then you could take out Jhin for Ahri, and then you're playing for Aatrox and Ahri as the main carries instead, since you are dropping Vanquisher. But in the other camp, where you are having 4 Vanquishers, this is what you are playing around instead. So here you kind of have to play Karma, and that is for Invokers as well. If you're taking Jhin out, you kind of want to have more of the strongest units that you can find. And in this meta, as mentioned before, Sion is kind of the best unit, and else you can play something like a Heimerdinger. These is the two units that you are looking for often, and also Aatrox. Super solid comp, really good if you can end up with something like this. And for augments, obviously the emblem again, and you could play Azir for this one because it's kind of a late game board with a lot of units, so you have to have a lot of gold and experience. Next up we have Void, and Void is super similar to set 9. The only big difference is that we are not having Yasuo anymore, and now we're having Fiora. So basically you're just putting the emblem on Fiora this time, and then you're putting Bruiser, tank, damage items on Fiora as well. So your priority will probably be Belith first, and then Kaisa, and that's only what gives us the most to the board. But obviously you're not gonna hit Belith first. So what you're looking for is Kaisa items. So what you want to do is getting 8 in the trade. That's like the main thing. Secondary is having items as fast as possible on Kaisa. And when you end up hitting Belith, you will put items on her, and then also have the items on Fiora. Rek'Sai can just hold whatever items is left over. There is also the option, if you're getting tons of Cho'Gaths naturally, you can get him to 3-star and put tank items on him, but that is probably not something you're gonna end up with. And if you do, you're probably gonna go over and play the Cho'Gaths comp that we mentioned before instead. So if you want to play this comp, you're obviously gonna play something like Earth, and that is for the emblem, and else something like Stable is also good for this comp. Super solid, kind of niche. You have to have the emblem to play it, but else it's super good. And just to mention it, before you're hitting Belith, you can't hit 8 in trade, and that means you're probably only gonna play 6 of the units, and then you're just gonna play around Kaisa and Fiora if possible, and else just other strong units that you can fit in. If you want to cap out the board, you will put something in like Sion as always, and that is probably your cap for this board. It's probably not a first, but if you're having 8 in the trade and good items on the right units, you can get up there for sure. Solid A comp. Next we are having the Slayer comp, where we are playing around Mordekaiser and Quinn. And one thing I learned from Snuble is that you probably want to play for 6 Slayers instead. Even this is the comp that people are looking for. So basically you just want to drop Swain and Sejuani and play the 6 Slayers instead. And that means this is the board that you're looking for. You are obviously going for the Treya augments, and TF is something Snuble recommended that most players that are not master yet could go for. Not because it's the strongest one, because it's the easiest one to make sure that you're getting the right items that you are looking for. He did say people are more likely to go for the best items all the time, no matter what you're playing, and that's something that are holding them back. But if you're playing TF, you can make sure that you're getting the items that you're looking for, and then you can have your focus on something else instead, like what units and how you combine them and where to put your units and all that kind of stuff. All the things in the middle that we kind of forget because we're too focused on what items we should go for. But let's go over the items anyway. Mordekaiser obviously wants to have one of the rapid fire cannons, and something else could be other attack speed items. Quinn wants the 2 crit items and will get the 3rd items from Demacia. And then Bruiser items on Aatrox. This could be something looks like the best items for him, but this is kind of the board that you want to play. Again, we already have Sion and Aatrox, so when it comes to capping out the board, Heimerdinger is probably the option that you are looking for. But before you're hitting 6 Slayers, play around 4 of the Slayers and just fit in whatever is best. And when you end up hitting the last unit that you need, you can transfer Bruiser items over to Aatrox and then play the full board. It is super good, but you kind of have to have 6 in the Slayer, and that's also why a Slayer crest is kind of good, so you can end up getting 6 in the Slayers before we hitting the last unit. Another solid comp with Juggernaut and Mordekaiser is the one where you are having scoped weapon, so you don't have to play rapid fire cannon. You can just play for attack speed, Bruiser items on Mordekaiser instead. You're going for attack speed on Azir, the 3 attack speed items, tank, Bruiser items on Aatrox, and pure tank items on Nasus. So once again, you're probably gonna play around 4 Juggernauts, and that means you are not having Aatrox in the start, and you can just have his items on another unit instead. That could be Darius, it could also be CEST, and then you're always welcome to take out Swain or Jarvan in the mid game. But else, this is what you are looking for. Try to get yourself items for Azir and Mordekaiser, and tank items for Nasus. Whatever you want to prioritize is just whatever you hit first. So if you're getting a 2-star Azir, you will prioritize to put items on him. Same with Mordekaiser. And by default, you're just going to put your tank items on Nasus. Not anything specific or special with this comp. It's just a solid comp that you can always transfer into, if you are hitting 4 Juggernauts early, or even seeing a Mordekaiser or Azir early in the game. Capping out this board, Heimerdinger or Sion. So the last comp worth mentioning is obviously the full 5-cost board, Bill Gates board. You need tons of gold and experience, and that is why you're playing the Soul. It's also called the Aurelian Soul comp for last patch, or the Dragon King, whatever. So basically you're playing this board where you're having as many of the 5-cost units in. Things you want to be aware of is that Ahri is going to be your main carry, and that is why we're having 2 in Invokers, and also why we are having 3 Ionias. So Set's going to be there only because we want 3 Ionias for Ahri. If you're getting an emblem for Ionia, you could put it on Belith, since she benefits for it really well, and then you can take that unit out and play Nasus instead. So you are still getting 2 in Juggernauts, but still having the Ionia trait active. That is even better, but in most cases that you're not getting the emblem, Set is probably the unit. You could also, before you're hitting Rise, playing something like Karma, since she gives the Invoker and she also gets the Ionia. And that means if you don't have Set, you can play something else like that and then change them up around when you hit Rise, take out Karma, or one of the other tank units in the front. K'Sante is not that good anymore. You kind of have to prioritize him if you're playing him. He is kind of useless without items. He can be useful in some cases when he have items and are playing something very specific comps. That could be the boss comp with a 3-star Set in the front line, so he can kick him out. But else I would kind of stay away from K'Sante and play some of the other 5-cost units instead. But else, attack speed, Bruiser, items on Belith, this is probably her best ones, and else other items could go on Aatrox. Gangplank could also be an item holder for sure, both for AP and tank items, but in this case you're probably gonna put the tank items on him instead. Obviously you're gonna play the Aurelian Soul to get to this point. Yeah, and if you have any questions or comments, you can just leave a comment on the video. You can also go in and see Snuble's Twitch. I will be linked to his channel, and you can just ask him whatever you feel like. He is always answering questions, and you do just learn tons from just watching him play. There is definitely a reason why he was the first to hit Challenger on the server. So thanks to Snuble, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next guide.